Hey, this is Chad Brown with Chad Brown Law. I am talking today through a series that we're doing on the sequential evaluation process. The sequential evaluation process is the five-step process that the Social Security Administration goes through to determine if someone is disabled. And we've done an introduction, and today I want to talk about step one of the sequential evaluation process, or substantial gainful activity. One of the questions we get asked in our office a lot is, can I work? People get on disability, they want to know if they can go back to work. People are working and trying to figure out if they can continue to work and apply for disability. You have people that have reduced their work because of their disabilities and are trying to figure out if they should apply for disability or should continue with work. You have people that are working, but they're having a lot of cost and expenses due to their medical impairments that they're having to manage to be able to work. And so questions about work are very common. And in the sequential evaluation process, they actually show up at step one. So I got my board here, and I'm going to go through just a couple of the key points to help you understand. Now remember, we're talking here about the sequential evaluation process. And this process is done in sequence. And so once you go through the first step, you either will be denied because you make over SGA, and we'll talk about what that is, or they'll find that you have not made over SGA and you're able to go on to step two of the process. So what is SGA? Well, SGA is, to start with, is just a number. And for 2020, for example, the number is 1,260 for most individuals and $2,110 per month for blind, statutory blind individuals who have a different set of rules. So most people are actually going to be dealing here with this 1260 number. And what they're going to look at, though, is what's called countable income. So the 1260 is not just you make $1,260 a month. It's $1,260 a month of countable income. Now, there are a couple of things people need to understand. This is not take home. This is not how much you bring home after taxes. This is not how much you bring home after the government takes its share through FICA. This is how much money you make gross at the end of each month on average. So countable income for 2020 is $1,260. So if you make over that, you're going to lose at step one of the process. If you make under that, then you go to step two of it. It doesn't mean you win. It just means you go to step two of the process. Now, there is one thing, though, that comes up a lot in disability cases, which is very important to understand, and that's IRWE, which stands for Impairment-Related Work Expenses. So it's very common that people that are working actually have a lot of additional expenses to be able to work. They can't drive, and so they have to pay for public transportation to go to work. They have to have a special wheelchair to be able to work. They have to take very expensive medications to be able to function so that they can work. Just imagine anything that's going on with someone who's disabled and a medical cost or work-related cost to allow that person to work. Well, they get to deduct those from their income. So countable income is typically, there are some other exceptions, but typically countable income is going to be what someone makes gross minus their impairment-related work expenses. And this, obviously, with people that are disabled is a big deal. And if you over the amount, you lose at step one of the process and you don't get to go forward. It does not matter how severe your impairments may be. And oftentimes it's factoring in these impairment-related work expenses that will allow you to have your countable income come below the number for any given year and allow you to move forward in the process. So this is pretty basic for SGA, as it's usually called. People who are self-employed have a completely different set of rules. These rules do not apply to people who are self-employed. They calculate income very differently at the beginning of the process. But your typical person who is working a public job is going to have to get through step one. And if you're not working, well, it's pretty easy. Your SGA is going to be zero. If you're working on a very limited part-time basis, most of the time people are going to be under SGA as well. When you start running into trouble is when people are working a pretty substantial amount, hence substantial gainful activity, and their income level gets above the number and they get denied. So we field a lot of questions about SGA. If you're in the process and considering going back to work, That's something you have to be very careful with, because you could end up getting yourself denied at step 1. If you're in work and you're considering leaving, or you need to reduce your income, then certainly understanding what SGA levels are is going to be important in helping you understand how and if you're going to be able to navigate the process. So step 1 of the sequential evaluation process is SGA, and that's just a real brief introduction to how that works. I hope that helps. Obviously, if you have more detailed questions about SGA or you're self-employed, you're going to need more specific advice than that. But hey, that's a good introduction. Anyway, hope that helps. Thanks.